All right, this is session 26 with Atlas, and I'm going to work on beginning to teach him how to lead. So I'm just going to make friends with him here, rub on his face, I'll click him there and give him a treat. And I'm just kind of seeing how he is today. How's he feeling? Is he a little worried for me touching him? Just kind of get a sense of where he's at today. He's shedding out, so he's very hairy. He's looking for more food in there. And then I'll just come back, kind of get some of the mud off. We're just kind of bonding and hanging out a little bit because I don't want to go right to work. I want to kind of see where he's at. Does he let me pet him? Is he a little skittish? Is he really relaxed? And then I can kind of judge what I'm going to do based on that. But we're just going to go ahead and get him used to the halter. That was really nice. I'll click him and feed him for that. And then I've cut out all the parts where he's eating because it doesn't really need to be seen. And then I'm going to go ahead and put his halter on. And I'm kind of at a bad angle here, but you get the idea. He's being haltered. And he's being very good. Get his halter on. I'll click him, and then I'll give him a treat. And he's worn the halter a little bit too. He's still not super used to it, but he has worn it. And then we're going to just work on a little bit of desensitizing. So you can't see it, but I'm just moving the halter on his face, and he stood there and he was fine, so I'll feed him. And then I'm going to kind of do the same thing here. I'm just moving my hand on the side of his halter. And then here I'm just going to hold. And he kind of leaned toward me right there. Very good. And that's just the beginnings of leading, is I'm just going to use my hand on the halter because I don't want to add in the rope yet because he doesn't quite understand. He's a little, like he shook his head there, he's a little worried about the feeling of the halter, but then he took a step over, so I'll feed him for that. I'm just grabbing on that little piece underneath the halter and using that as like a little handle to help move him over. So I'm just going to hold gently and kind of back up a little bit to draw him toward me. Like he didn't quite understand that, so I'll let go. And that one he didn't quite understand either. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to chase him and hold him because that would be dangerous. You don't want to get your hands caught up in there. There, he leaned toward me, so I'm going to click him and feed him. So definitely don't get your hands wrapped around. I have like one finger. That was very nice. Click him for that and feed him. Because you don't want to get trapped in there and then they pull you, and that could be really bad. I'm going to help him out here and kneel his hindquarters. Very good. So he had his head bent already, and then he stepped over, so he's coming off the pressure. So the yielding of the hindquarters can really help you out if your horse gets stuck and he doesn't quite understand. Very good right there. Nice step. Very good. Click him for that. And the horse might get a little confused if he doesn't want to leave the bowl. If that's the case, I would kind of start on the other side and go toward the bowl, or start working on hand feeding too. So I'm asking him to back up a little bit here. And all I'm worried about is him just kind of coming off of it a tiny bit and just moving his head back, or like shifting his weight back. That's all I'm concerned with. So you're not asking for like one step right away. There, he leaned back. I'll click him for that and feed him. But I usually start just with the bend, like to one side, because it kind of puts them off balance a little bit, and then they'll kind of come off of it to the side. And then I'll start asking for a little bit of backing and a little bit of forward, and that's using like straight pressure, like asking him to go straight back or straight forward, and that can be a little bit scarier at first and a little harder for them to understand. So I'm just trying to use two hands here and just pet on his face. Because I want to have that one hand to kind of pull back, and then I'm just using the other one to kind of push on his face a little bit. Kind of have to play around and see which works best for your horse. And then I'm going to ask again, just very gently holding. And he's just figuring out what the answer is. It's not turn my head here, it's not put my head down, it's not shake my head. There, he does back up, so I'll take that. And I'm not super worried that he's kind of shaking his head a little bit. I'm not super concerned. I just try to not let it happen all the time. I'm going to back up, see if he'll kind of follow me over here. I'm just holding on. There we go. I'm just holding on to that with my hand all the way around it. It's like I'm holding a stick, because you don't want to put your fingers through there, because he could just run off and take your finger with him. So we don't want that. Asking for a little back step here. He doesn't understand. There we go. and he thought he kind of tossed his head around, but he did end up backing up, so I let him go. I'm just trying to do very, very little amounts of pressure so he doesn't try to leave or try to pull away, because I have to train this. This is why we're doing it. Horses are not born knowing how to get off of pressure. They're supposed to push into pressure. So don't be worried if your horse does not understand at first, because most will not get it right away. So I'm just kind of holding. He wants to target my hand. Not a big deal. You can also use your target for this. It's up to you and up to your horse, and see what works best. Because you can ask with your hand and then have the target up underneath his nose and he can follow it backwards, which works really well too, or use your hand. Very good. He was a little fussy with his head, but he went backwards, so that's okay. It's not gonna be perfect. I just want him to try, and that's all where we're at right now. So ask him to go back. I'm just very lightly, I'm gonna ask him with my hand cue here, because he knows that. So I'm just kind of adding it in there. And he does back up. He has a little toss, so that's okay. And then lots of petting in between. Make sure he's nice and relaxed. Ask him again, just very softly. And I'm just using my hand cue, which he already knows to back up from. Didn't really want this sideways. He does go back, that's okay. And he's coming back. He's not getting scared and like running away. So if your horse is leaving you, you're probably putting too much pressure on, or you might not have as much reinforcement as they need. If you're using like hay or something, that might not be enough for them. They might need a little bit more. You might want to try like a carrot, like a store-bought horse treat, alfalfa grain, something like that. So I'm just trying to kind of stay with him here. He lowered his head, so I let go there, and then I'll ask again. That was nice. He kind of lowered his head and tucked it a little bit. I'm just looking for anything toward the direction that I put the pressure on. So I'm asking him to back up. He's going forward. That's okay. I'm just going to kind of move with him and hold that same amount of pressure. There he leans back. I'll click him and give him a treat. That was perfect. I like to do it on both sides. I like to lead my horses on both sides. I like them to know what the pressure is there. So I'm just kind of petting him here, moving the halter on his face, let him know we're going to do the same thing over here. So I'm just asking him to back up on this side. I'm just going to wait. He thinks the answer is turn his head toward me. That's okay. I'm just going to hang out there and wait for him to figure it out, because he's just offering me behaviors. So that's what I want. So you might have to use your target if your horse is not offering any behaviors. If they just stand there and they're like, no idea, they just go kind of into a freeze, then you can use your target under his face to follow it backward. There we go. Click him for that, for the nice backward step. But he's really engaged and he's thinking about, oh, what could I do to gain a reward? Good. Nice step over. Treat for that. Very cool. He's following me over that way. That was pretty good. I'm just yielding his hindquarters on that side too. Like when I do use the halter, like on the noseband, I'm just putting like one finger in it. So like if he pulls out like he did there, like my finger just slides out and it's not a big deal. Don't put your whole hand around it. That's not a good idea. If you're gonna try this, I would mostly just have it on that little place where you hook the lead rope to it on the bottom on the knot. That was very nice, just to be safe. So I did not use a lead rope because they are out in the pasture. Atlas, I know for sure, is not a huge fan of the rope, especially dragging behind him. Very nice. So I definitely don't want to put him in a position where he would be in danger, and this is all hot wire. So we don't need anybody running through the hot wire. I do work on the lead rope in the round pen where it is safe, but I like to break it down like this too, because then he knows the answer. So I'm only adding one thing is the lead rope versus adding the pressure and the lead rope together and just making him worried. So right here, I'm just gonna end it after he had some really good times where he was moving forward and moving to the side and moving backward. So I'm just rubbing his chest. He's shedding out and he has a ton of hair on his chest and he's itchy and sweaty and it's not good. So I'm just gonna end on a good note where I'm just bonding with him and we're just sensitizing and kind of helping him out here with his hair problem, because we live in North Carolina toward the coast and it's spring comes early. Like it's March when this video is taken and it's gonna be like 70s, possibly some 80s, and he needs to shed out this hair. So he's like quite gotten an appropriate coat for the weather, but so I'm just using this end time here to just kind of bond with him, and not every time I'm out here it's I'm gonna make you work and do stuff, which is usually not a huge deal with positive reinforcement because the horses love earning a treat. But so like when he was eating out of the bowl there, I like that the knot on his halter is hitting the bowl and kind of making sounds, and it's just sensitizing him just for later when he has the lead rope on and just other things on the bridle and whatnot. So he was really good and stood there, so I'll feed him, reward him for that. But I'm just kind of staying at a safe distance because I hadn't really messed with his chest a whole lot before this, and just making sure if he just decided to strike out or something, I'm not in the way. But he seems pretty relaxed and not too worried because he's got his ears moving, he's listening to me, he's got his neck pretty low, so he's not too worried about that. And then it just helps to have us bond. So I'm gonna take the halter off here and end for the day, nice and slow, just kind of slip it off his face. Very nice. And we'll just end that session for today and work on leading again a little bit more later.